We live in the greatest country in the world, and it's in large part because we have the greatest military in the history of the world. It's Military Appreciation Month, and here on Stay the Water, we're going to talk about the impact of the military in Hampton Roads. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. Stay tuned as we honor our military. Welcome back. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. We want to thank you for joining us once again as we broadcast live from the campus of the Norfolk State University on WNSB. We are Hot 91, the soul of VA. You know, this is a beautiful, beautiful Sunday. You know, things are opening back up. We just finished graduation, sending out and making some of the greatest Spartans to go out and do some of the greatest things in the world. You know, we got some of the greatest students, some of the greatest alumni ever, some of the greatest supporters of our institution. And, you know, when I sit back and think about how fortunate we are, you know, we're just extremely blessed, right? You know, so talking with our producer, who's always keeping us on point, Marvin Folks, also known as DJ Scandalous. You can hear him live from 2 to 6 p.m. here on Hot 91, the soul of VA. And, you know, I was just saying just how fortunate we are, you know, to have, you know, the place that we are, the military that we have. And it's in large part, again, our country, the greatness of it in large part because of the men and women that sacrifice their time, you know, and sacrifice not just their time, but their lives, their time with their family and the like. And we're going to take this opportunity here in our Commonwealth Conversation series to talk about the impact of the military here in Hampton Roads, salute those that are some of the best of the best. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to look at how ROTC programs here at HBCUs have really helped to catapult African Americans into several things. Number one, education. Number two, high ranks in the military. But number three, high ranks in society as well. And the plan of the Pentagon and the White House to increase support for our ROTC programs. But before we do, I'd like to take just a moment, and we're not going to delve into this subject today, but we're going to deal with it next week because I think it's something that we have to do. But I just want to take a moment and give our condolences to all of the families of the victims of the senseless killing, the massacre that happened in Buffalo, New York. Once again, we open up the paper. Once again, we click on the stories. Once again, we turn on our news, and we see another senseless massacre of people based on hate. You know, this is becoming a part of our American story, which it should not be a part of. And our hearts go out to all of those families that were killed, to the security guard that did his very best, you know, to stand in the midst of a hail of bullets coming down and raining down on innocent people, returning fire, engaging the terrorists, the domestic terrorists, and losing his life as well. And those who were injured still fighting for their lives. There were others that were shot. They didn't die there, but they're fighting for their lives. We pray for them and give our support, you know, to Buffalo, New York, and all of the people there. But they need more than just prayer and support, but we need action in this country to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And we know it all too well here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, what we experienced in Charlottesville and, you know, also in our neighboring state of South Carolina at you know, Mother Emanuel Church. But like I said, we're not going to delve into it now, but, you know, it's just something that I felt that we needed to just say and just take just a few moments just to recognize the evil that exists in this world, but you can't fight evil with evil. Good always overcomes evil. And that's one thing that I realized, Marvin, that we have here in this country. We have a lot of good people. And when good people do the right thing, That's courage, because you're going to get resistance to it. But when good people do the right thing, we can overcome anything. So if we could, I'd just like to take a few moments of silence to honor those that were killed, those that stood in the gap, and those who are still fighting for their lives in the massacre in Buffalo, New York. So once again, like I said, we're not going to deal with it now. We're going to deal with it in the next show. But, again, just kind of going back to this month, one of the great things I mentioned about our country, we got a lot of great people in our country, a lot of good, but also, we have, again, some of the greatest of our communities, of our schools, of our families, of our churches, of our cities that raise their right hand and say, hey, I'm going to serve and give my life over to the protection of our country from enemies, foreign and domestic. And I'm going to honor our flag. I'm going to defend our Constitution, our way of life, and ensure that we continue to have the freedoms that we have. I mean, that's America, right? America is about freedoms. It's about freedom of choice. It's about also respecting other people with your freedoms, but it's about being able to have freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom to serve and worship the religion that you want to worship. Freedoms. I mean, that's why people come here. Marvin, that doesn't exist across the world. I mean, we've got places in this world where dictators rule with an iron fist. And right now we're dealing with a conflict. We got in Europe where Russia is now has engaged Ukraine, and they're fighting valiantly over there, protecting their country. But again, we're in a country where we have the ability to thwart a lot of those things that may happen to us. But even if we don't, we have men and women that say, hey, we're going to run toward the fire. We're not going to run away from it, but we're going to run toward the fire and ensure that our people are protected, ensure that our country, our families, and our posterity continue to live the American dream. So today, we salute you. Those of you that have served in the military, those of you who are serving currently in the military, those who are veterans, we salute you because, again, you're some of the best of the best. I remember I'm a third generation in my family, military, veteran, my father, my grandfather, myself on my father's side. And I remember, raising my hand saying, I'm going to go on this journey to protect our country and do whatever I need to do. And it was one of the greatest experiences that I've ever had, serving in the U.S. Army, and, just the friendships, the camaraderie, but also the appreciation, that you have for where we live. Again, I simply can't, emphasize enough that this simply doesn't happen. And we have an all volunteer military. Of course, we had the draft at one time during the time of Vietnam, right? So, of course, you had a lot of protests, a lot of draft card burning and things of that nature. But with that, still persons volunteer and say, we're going to go and serve, right? So today we're going to talk about the impact of the military here in Hampton Roads, because one great thing I love, first of all, I love many things about Hampton Roads. We've adopted this, my family, as our home. This is, our youngest son grew up here longer than any other place in which we live. Actually, both our sons. And they say, this is home. This is our home. And we love it. We love everything about Hampton Roads, everything about the Commonwealth of Virginia. But one of the great things that I love about it, outside the history, the people, the geographic location, the terrains, just the diversity that we have here, I love the military. I love the fact that, we have one of the largest concentration, if not the largest concentration, of military personnel and bases and support here in this area. And not just here in this area, but also retirees that are saying the same thing that, my family said. You know what? This is home. This is home. We lived here, we lived there, we're from this place, but Hampton Roads is our home. As a matter of fact, according to the Hampton Roads Chamber, Hampton Roads is home to one of the world's largest population of military personnel with approximately 83,000 active duty military personnel. All right, 83,000 active duty military personnel. And of course, it's also home to the largest naval base in the world and only NATO command on U.S. soil. I'm going to go back into some more. We're going to talk about it and delve into this a little bit more. But I want to talk about the military personnel. Now, those are active military personnel. Now, that does not include the families that are also supporting the military personnel that's there. Again, it takes more than just that one person, right? I know we have people who are serving, who are not married, who don't have children, don't have spouses. Of course, they have their immediate family, their parents and sisters and brothers, aunts and uncles and so forth, and cousins. But those individuals they have families, they're also serving, right? They're also serving in the military as well, because the things that their loved one experiences, they're also experiencing it. They're bringing that home to them, and not just bringing it home, but also they're going to have to go back and do it again. So now the family that support that personnel have to give them the support, the encouragement, the love to go back and do it again the very next day. And let me tell you, if I remember when my kids were much younger, and of course, even now, if I'm at work a little longer and, they're like, Dad, when you coming home? If I'm in the office maybe an hour or two longer than I usually am, like, Dad, when you coming home? And the funny thing about it is that when you mention it, Dad, when you coming home? I'm just an hour or two late. Past the time I normally work. What about individuals who are out on duty, on deployment, 6 months, 1 year, right? And then some that end up doing a back-to-back deployment, right? And during the time of Afghanistan, the war in Afghanistan, which is the longest war that we've had in U.S. history, or Desert Storm, Desert Shield, right? Individuals did multiple, deployments. You're talking about 3+ deployments, right? So what about that? But again, they go back and they do it again. And they do it voluntarily. They re-up. They say, you know what? It's the hardest job I had, but guess what? It's the greatest job that I have, right? We go back and we do it again. And hats off to the families, again, that once again support them. So we support the families of the over 83,000 military active duty personnel here that also are serving with you. And once again, this is Military Appreciation Month. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. This is Stay the Water. Today, we're talking about and we're appreciating our military, the greatest military in the history of the world, that is a part of the greatest country in the history of the world. And we're the greatest in large part because of the men and women that serve. So for this month, we're appreciating them, and we're talking about their challenges, but also the support, the accomplishments, the achievements, and the like. So if you are serving in the military and you want to just call in, or you have a family member that's serving, or you're supporting someone, you want to call in, we're opening up the phone lines to you. 757-823-9110. 757-823-9110. This is Military Appreciation Month. Feel free to call in to appreciate the military. So let's take a look at what Hampton Roads is home to. Again, according to the Hampton Roads Chamber, once again, we have the largest naval base right here in our backyard. That is amazing, right? Every day I come across HRBT or come across the James River Bridge or whatever bridge tunnel that I'm going through at the moment, I always try to look over and see, those ships, those battleships, those aircraft carriers, those ships that support the ships that are out there. Because again, that's when they're sailing on the high sea, those are the ships that are protecting us, right? Those are the ones that go into the battle. They don't go away from it. They go into the battle to protect us and what we're doing, what we're living for here. So it's a phenomenal to have it. It's Stay the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. Welcome to Stay the Water.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Give us your name. Give us your name and where you're calling from.
I'm calling from Chesapeake, Virginia. My name is Tanya Moore.
Tanya Moore, thank you so much for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey, I want to give a shout out to my military family members. I have a son who is currently serving in the U.S. Marines. He's stationed in Fort Worth, Texas, and he just became a new father a couple of weeks ago. And so shout out to him. And I want to shout out my husband who retired from the Navy, my sister who retired from the Navy, and a host of other family members who served in the military. So I appreciate them and everything they've done.
Listen, absolutely. Look, you have quite the remarkable family, I can tell already. And,
yep.
Having a son, I just want to ask you, having a son and a husband that both serve, how was that on you and how proud of you of your husband and also your son for making that decision?
Well, I didn't really want my son to go in, but he was adamant, that he wanted to do this. He was an ROTC. He just always wanted to be a Marine. So, it was hectic for a second, but, we pushed through. On his 18th birthday, he signed up, and I am very, very proud of him now. He's a staff sergeant in the Marines.
All right.
He just worked his way up. And as far as my husband, I met him here in Norfolk. He was already serving, and me and him have been married now for 25 years this July.
Wow, congratulations.
And it was tough a little bit because he had to go on deployment a lot, and we had a small child, and it was just a rough at first, but we pushed through. We made it, and I am so very proud of my family.
Hey, listen. Again, first of all, congratulations on the 25 years of you and your husband. And also thank you for supporting, to some of the best and brightest of our community, your husband and your son, and also to your sister and other family members that have served and retired. So we appreciate you so much.
All right. Thank you. I love your station. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And that's great to get those calls in. And I want to mention as well, if you love the station, guess what we're having? We're having our annual fall membership drive. Spring membership drive. That's right. We do it every fall and spring. But we're having our spring membership drive coming up. So make sure you tune in all next week, starting tomorrow. Okay, starting tomorrow, because it's our time to give back to the station, with callers such as Miss Tanya that called in and others that are calling in, that listen, that tune in. I was just telling Marvin, I was at a function and I had someone come up to me and say, I want to tell you, my wife and I listen to the show every single Sunday. They're tuned in. So we're excited for what we do here at Hot 91, the soul of VA, WNSB, here on the campus of the Norfolk State University. So, but we can't do it without you, right? So make sure you call in on starting tomorrow, or you can go online at WNSBonline.org and you could donate and give. It doesn't matter what it is, $1, $100, $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, or $1 million. It doesn't matter. But we want to make sure that you give to continue to support what we do here for you in Hampton Roads. So thank you so much, caller, for the call. Once again, if you want to call in and give an appreciation, give a shout out to those that are serving in the military. If you've served, talk about your experience, talk about the value of it and how you encourage others to do it. Give us a call, 757-823-9110. That's 757-823-9110. So let's go back and take a look at, again, we talked about the Navy, right? The Navy and the people that we have serving in it, but also we have not just the Navy, but we have the Air Force in our backyard, the Army, the Coast Guard, and the Marines all have a presence here in Hampton Roads. And once again, the only NATO command on U.S. soil. That is mind blowing. That is absolutely huge, especially what we have going on. But, the caller called in and she supports, individuals in her family that served in the military. But not only do we have families that support, but we also have civilian personnel that support the military. So in this area of over 1.6 million people, we have over 150,000 both active duty and civilian personnel that support this military engine. Think about that support this military engine. And in Hampton Roads, the regional economy has been so increasingly dependent upon defense spending over the past decade and the Department of Defense. Spending accounts for almost 50%, 45.6% of all regional economic activity. Now, again, that's according to the Hampton Roads Chamber and their study on their site. Almost 50%, 45.6% of all regional economic activity is dependent upon our military. And again, it's not like it's going away. The people, not just is this a great region for the military, a great region that appreciates our military, but the people that serve, they appreciate the region. So it all works in tandem. And we have some of the greatest places to eat here. We have in my opinion, the most beautiful beach outside of, Miami, South Florida. I'm just going to give that shout out right there. But we have the greatest beach, both for those that want to come and have fun, families, the whole nine, has something for everybody. We have some of the greatest historical areas here in the area. I mean, it's just an area, some of the greatest universities.
Museums.
Absolutely. Museums, you name it. So we all support each other. And that's one of the phenomenal things about it. But I want to delve in just a little bit more, and talk about what we have. The major military units and the headquarters, like I said, includes NATO. It includes also the U.S. Joint Forces Command, the U.S. Fleet Forces Command, the U.S. Air Force Air Combat Command, the U.S. Marine Corps Forces Command, and also the U.S. Army Training and Doctrine Command. That's all here in the Hampton Roads region. And they all exist on various bases. So we have the Joint Base Langley Eustis. We have the Joint Expeditionary Base Little Creek Fort Story. We got the Coast Guard. We have the U.S. Marine Corps. Again, our caller, her son, is serving in the Marine Corps now. And we have the Naval Air Station, Oceana at Dam Creek in Virginia Beach. We have the Naval Medical Center at Portsmouth, the Naval Station also here in Norfolk. And not only that, but we also have the hospital that we have here in Hampton as well, the Veterans Hospital. So again, it all supports each other. Again, one of the great things about it, and of course, there's been some realignment of bases and so forth and the like, but they're still here. I want to talk about the Coast Guard, and we're going to delve into a little bit each of them in our few moments that we have in the first half hour, because in the second half hour, we want to talk about the ROTC programs and the impact of those programs. But the Coast Guard, right there located in Portsmouth, Virginia, they talk about the Navy going into fire, going into danger. But, when the seas get too high or they need rescue, they call the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard goes in. So we want to, again, thank the Coast Guard for their service in protecting our coast. Because not only do we have to protect away from the U.S., but we also have to protect our coast, and the Coast Guard guards that for us. So they're active not just in search and rescue, but also law enforcement, national security, environmental response, and aids to navigation. And of it, we have between 6,000, well, actually over 6,000, both active duty and reservists here in the Coast Guard. So salute to the Coast Guard for all that you do as well. You're part of this system, and without it, we couldn't operate like we do. And when I talk about how we all support each other, right? So we support each other not just in what the families do for each other, not just what the civilian personnel do for the military itself, but we also support the military by the partnerships that we have, the workforce development partnerships, the college partnerships that we have with the military. If you're serving in the military, you've got phenomenal opportunities to continue your degree, to continue your learning. It doesn't mean you join and you stop. You're always learning. You're always growing, right? So you've got universities like Norfolk State University, not just here on our main campus in the city of Norfolk, but we also have our higher education center, which is located in the city of Virginia Beach, where, you can focus in on criminal justice, law enforcement, and other areas that you want to pursue as a military personnel. But also we have our online school, online university, where you can pursue your master's degree, through that process. Because again, we know how things are. Crises aren't scheduled. You don't click, okay, April, 2020, we're going to have a crisis here so I can enroll in school. So things happen, right? And you're there to respond to it. But because of that, you're able to, again, continue your degree online and make sure that you continue growing and going. And also our other great universities, our partners here in the area. So once again, this is Military Appreciation Month. And on this show, we're honoring our military. We're also bringing home the value of our military here in Hampton Roads. And also in the second half, we're going to talk about the value of our ROTC programs and the impact on the African-American community. So once again, we salute you. If you have a story, you want to call in 757-823-9110, 757-823-9110. Feel free to call in, but we're going to take a quick moment, a quick break, and we'll be right back to honor our military.
Get ready. Coming May 16th, 17th, and 18th. Hot 91 is looking for your support. Financial support, that is. Please support our biannual membership drive. May 16th, 17th, and 18th. We'll be asking for your tax-deductible contribution so that we can continue to bring you great programming, content, and community resources. And we can keep providing professional, hands-on student training for our future broadcasters. So, start planning your contribution now. Every donation makes a difference. Save the date. May 16th, 17th, and 18th. We are Hot 91.
Welcome back. It's State of the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville. We want to thank you so much for joining us here once again on Hot 91, the soul of VA, as we broadcast live from the campus of Norfolk State University, home of the Spartan Nation. We finished graduation, and we've some of the greatest and best of our best have finished their journey here at the university, but their journey and their impact on this world is just beginning. So we wish them nothing but the best of luck, Godspeed in your endeavors to make a difference in this world. Also, I want to make sure that you know that you have an opportunity to participate in what we're doing here at the university through this station. And how do you do that? Well, you do it by calling in starting tomorrow on Monday, on May 16th. We start our spring annual membership drive.
Yep, twice a year, fall and spring.
That's right. So look, if you missed it in the fall last year, guess what? You can do it now. So call in to the station, 757-823-9110 to donate. A lot of people, a lot of our personalities are going to be on air.
Special guests.
Absolutely special guests. They're going to be urging you to give, talking about the great things that we're doing. If you notice, and I've actually had conversations with people that say, you know what, I was, I used to listen to, the station every now and then, but I'm finding myself, my radio is on Hot 91 all day.
Locked in.
It's locked in because it's like, we don't like the music, whatever you're doing in the rotation, the shows, it's engaging me. It's every stage, whether it's in the morning with the morning show, with Cheryl Wilkerson, our station manager,
Terry Tabb,
Maynard Scales, and also Braxton. That show is like one of the best morning shows out there. Of course, you go back and forth to this show, that show, but I'm finding myself locked in as well. And then, of course, the music that starts after that. And then the shows that come on Sundays. Of course, we got our producer, Marvin Folks, also known as DJ Scandalous. He rips it up from 2 to 6. Matter of fact, I sent him a text this week. I said, man, you jam it.
Appreciate that, sir.
It was absolutely for that. And then we got Run TV, right?
The most lit show on radio.
The most lit show on radio. Listen, we've got an opportunity to see Run TV in studio
Oh, man.
Being lit. It's a show within itself. So as he's broadcasting on his social media, his Instagram, and shooting things out, tune into his Instagram as well. And you'll see how lit it actually is. And then
we slow it down with Mike Love.
Mike Love, the night track. So when it's time to chill, time to do what you do, we got Mike Love in the house. And then we got Sunday. You kick it off, with praises and worship to the Lord, and that's a phenomenal piece within itself. Listening to it this morning, it gets you going. It starts your week off right.
Phenomenal music. Ms. J. Owens Haynes, phenomenal.
Absolutely. That rotation of gospel music and inspirational music is just, it gets you going. And I love it. Love it. Tune in. We're locked in at 91 on Sundays there. And then, of course, the talk shows start with Cheryl, once again, Cheryl Wilkerson. And then we have the new shows.
Yep, Dr. Mebane.
Dr. Mebane, who's our executive director for our Centers for Minority Health Disparities here and leading the effort of the one school here between Norfolk State, Old Dominion, and Eastern Virginia Medical School, where we have the first joint public health school that is opening up. Again, it's a proposed, and she's leading that effort. So tune in for that show that comes on right before, you guessed it, Stay the Water, with your host, Dr. Eric Claville. So where we bring movers, shakers, and policymakers to you to discuss issues important to the community. So, we wouldn't do what we do unless we had you. So if you call in and you can't get through, or you just simply can't call in at the moment, guess what? We all can contribute. We've got something in our hand. You just click on at wnsbonline.org or go to our app or simply go to the website.
Yep, that's right. And also starting tomorrow, we have a new feature we just implemented not too long ago, but you can also text your tax-deductible donation to us by texting HOT 91 to 91999. That'll start tomorrow, May 16th, 17th, and 18th, so you'll be able to text us to support the station.
You know what? I love it. Because we're meeting the people where they are, right?
That's right.
Meeting them right where they are. So if you don't want to go online, you just text, and it's right there. And one other thing I love about what you said, Scandalous, tax deductible, right?
Tax deductible.
So you can start your tax saving season right now, by donating to Hot 91 to Solar VA WNSB for our annual spring membership drive. So phenomenal. I'll be one of the first ones to make sure that I get my donation in, because if we don't support what we do, who will?
That's right.
But I believe in what we do. I love it. And we're, as the young people say, 10 toes down in this venture. All right? But I want to get back to the show and this series of our Commonwealth Conversation series, where we're talking about the military, right? Military Appreciation Month. And in the first half of the show, we talked about the value of our military here in the area, just how important it is, how phenomenal it is. And we had a caller call in to talk about their value and the impact and the value on their family and their spouse, their children who are serving, and family members as well. If you want to call in and you want to talk about and give a shout out to your family members who are serving, or talk about the value of your service, call in 757-823-9110. That's 757-823-9110. But again, what we have here in Hampton Roads is a phenomenal display and group of military bases, service, and the like. And it's just absolutely phenomenal when we talk about the impact. We talked about the different places, and I left out the Naval Shipyard. I've got to give a shout out to everybody at the Norfolk Naval Shipyard, and also at Huntington Ingalls, that supports the military by building first class ships, submarines, that are going out on the water, under the water, that are supporting us and protecting us. So for all of those that are out there, in whatever you're doing, to all the restaurants that are located by these different installations, that are helping to support and providing, the food and so forth, just a moment to get away, hats off to you. Because you're a part of that, a part of some of the best in what we do. Now, I also want to just talk about the impact, the economic impact. We mentioned the defense spending in the Hampton Roads region accounts for over 45% 45.6%, almost 50% of all economic activity in the region. Absolutely amazing. Now let's put that in numbers. In 2020, the military presence made a very big impact on the economy. You know, the Navy alone, this is according to WTKR, the Navy alone, which is our largest installation, reported in 2020 that the economic impact to Hampton Roads, this is in numbers, $15.8 billion. $15.8 billion in 2020 alone. You know, the Joint Base in Langley, USIS, reported an increase of $485 million in impact since 2018. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money in 1 year, right? So we're not talking over the course of years. We're talking in 1 year. That's phenomenal. That's money changing hands back and forth. And again, it's the value of the military, the value of what we do here, and the value of what actually individuals bring to the table. But how do we get there? How do we make some of the best and brightest soldiers and leaders of our country? You can do that one or two ways. You can do what's called a voluntary sign up. You can go in and you become enlisted. That means you sign up out of high school, whatever stage, college, whatever stage of life you're in, and you say, I want to serve. I want to be a part of this great experiment, this great venture of our country called the U.S. military. I did it. A lot of my friends did it. We did it. My father did it. My father's father, my grandfather did it. And we became a part of it. All right? We're veterans. The other way you can do it is become an officer. Now, once you get in, you can also go through officer training candidacy school, OCS, or you can go through an ROTC program. Now, ROTC programs are usually found at universities. Now, of course, if you're in high school, you had what's called junior ROTC. You know, and those are your classmates that were walking around in military uniforms. They were outside practicing the rifle twirls, you know, so forth and so on. Some cool stuff, right? Yeah. You know, and those are the individuals that were dedicated, that were locked in, right? At an early age. We're talking 14 years old, 14 to 17. So, but another way you can do it is in college, ROTC. And ROTC programs, and especially for African Americans, is an opportunity for three things. Number one, to go to college. Phenomenal way to do it.
Paid for.
Absolutely. Not only is your college career paid for, but also you get the experience and of leadership, building leadership skills along the way, and the relationships that you build. Absolutely phenomenal. And you get to meet some of the greatest leaders of our country, some of the generals, you know, some of the colonels, lieutenant colonels of our military, some of the majors that are leading the way, and civilian enlisted men, you know, some of the sergeant majors, this is some of the first sergeants and so forth that are leading us, you know, in ensuring that our country is the best that it is. Secondly, not just education paid for, but also is an opportunity to catapult you into leadership in the U.S. military. Just like every segment of our population in America, we were segregated. And African Americans and black people were relegated to the back of the line, whether it be the back of the bus, the back of the line as far as hiring, the back of the line as far as education, the back of the line as far as getting some of the best, we were relegated to that. But the U.S. military broke the barrier. They were the first institution across the board in America, okay, to break the barrier as relates to promoting individuals to leadership positions in the military, right? Absolutely groundbreaking. We've had black troops that served in some of the major military efforts of our country, starting from the Civil War, all the way up to our Buffalo Soldiers, all the way up to World War I. Tuskegee Airmen, World War II, and the like, until that barrier was broken all the way. So the military has really paved the way to create leadership opportunities for African Americans and African American community. Thirdly, what RTC programs do for African Americans it provides an opportunity to catapult them into leadership positions in the civilian world. One thing, I don't care who you are, one thing that every industry values are the skills that you gain from the military, right? The leadership skills, the experience, the dedication, the focus, they value that in the private sector. And with that, African Americans were able to utilize those experiences and, again, first start with the civil service jobs, and then from there into the private market, the private sector. You know, one man that I truly admired, you know, he's passed away now, I think one of the greatest Americans in our history, and that's former General Colin Powell. You know, when I say former, he's not a former general, but he's deceased. He's former Joint Chiefs of Staff, former First Secretary of State, first national, and when I say first, African American, Black Joint Chiefs of Staff, first Black Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, first Black National Security Advisor. I mean, he just blazed trail after trail after trail after trail after trail. And I remember seeing an interview of him that he did, and this is, he was battling cancer. This is some of the last days of his life. And he talked about how the ROTC program at the Cooney College system, he's out of New York, you know, really helped in providing him that opportunity. And he was very emotional because he was talking to the kids that were there, and he went and he said, you know, he said those kids were immigrants, sometimes first generation, second generation. Those kids were from, you know, the neighborhood. Those kids were from, you know, working class families. And he looked, he said, you know what? And he started to tear up and his voice was cracking. He said, those kids were me. They were me. You know, and to say something like that, a man who not just has the respect of the African American community, the military community, the Washington, D.C. community, but the world community. I mean, he served under some major presidents, first starting with President Reagan, all the way up, you know, and he was a Republican, but he had respect across the board, right? I mean, that's unheard of in this day and time. And to do what he did in his career, in his life, with the respect, the dignity, the integrity, the excellence, oh my God. And to say that these kids, they're at this local college, the city college, coming from the neighborhood, wanting to start their lives, they're me. That shows you the value of the ROTC programs. That shows you the value that what the military can do for you. It took a kid from an immigrant family out of Jamaica, West Indies, and catapulted him. Just that one decision to join that program, join the military, catapulted him to being categorized as one of the greatest Americans in the history of our country. So if it did that for him, let's take a look at ROTC programs in general. This is Stay in the Water. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Claville, and this segment of our Commonwealth Conversation series, we're highlighting Military Appreciation Month. Here in the second half hour, we're looking at the importance and the impact of ROTC programs at HBCUs and for the Black community. So according to diverseeducation.com, ROTC programs at HBCUs have served a dual purpose as a pipeline for minority students to diversify, as we stated earlier, the armed forces, while also providing students an opportunity to receive a collegiate education. You know, and not just that, but as we talked about, it provides those leadership skills for students. You know, we get the email alerts here on our campus of, you know, the training programs that they're having. It's like they're going to be out there marching. So, you know, make sure you're aware of that. Make sure we're having speakers come on campus. Our ROTC, they're going on training expeditions, you know, outside of the university. I mean, and they're coming back as leaders. I mean, as professors, some of our best students are ROTC students, you know, that we have here. You know, but when we take a look at it, Dr. Terrell Strayhorn, who's the interim vice president of academic and student affairs and professor of urban education at Lemoyne-Owing, he said it's the college's mission to offer students a transformative experience through academic programs and extracurricular activities such as ROTC. And when we take a look at ROTC programs themselves, ROTC matters for some of the students at places like not just that HBCU, but also at all HBCUs, especially here at Norfolk State University. But it gives us an opportunity to push the narrative, to diversify the leadership core of the military. I remember talking with a colleague who was the head of a military program at one of the HBCUs, and he said the students, he had the value of teaching and imparting leadership experiences and skills into African-American students who are going to become African-American lieutenants, majors, current lieutenant colonels, and even possibly generals. He had that opportunity because he says this is not the U.S. military, though. The majority of the leadership in the military ranks are white males. And of course, over the course of history, that was the promotion string, right? So we know that. We look at it in the civilian world. White male leadership is primarily the leadership, that we have here in a lot of our ranks, whether it be corporate, whether it be in government, whether it be in other aspects of the private sector, but also the military. But when we talk about having these programs, the programs at HBCUs are very important because it helps us to broaden the context of what leadership actually is. According to Diverse Education, the statistics from the Department of Defense and Pew Research Center show that African Americans make up approximately 19% of the military's active duty enlisted members, but only 9.1% of active duty officers. Look at the disparity of that. 19% of military enlisted, almost 20%, so almost 1/5. I think that's a great number. But less than 10%, or if you want to look at it in more optimistic, glass half full, almost 10% of active duty officers. Now, again, based upon our population, based upon the enlisted track of African Americans, that number still suffers. Now, so let's take a look at what we can do. Now, the White House is actually talking about supporting more ROTC programs at HBCUs. Now, you would think that, there are ROTC programs across the board, right? Not true. Take a look at it. Currently, according to Diverse Education, 24 other HBCUs are home to ROTC programs. 24 other HBCUs, so 25 total.
That's a decent amount.
Well, let's take a look at it. We have over 100 HBCUs.
Well, then we need more.
Yeah, absolutely. So over 100 identified HBCUs. I think the number is like 105, 106.
Yeah.
And again, you have historically black, but then you have universities who are become a part that were not established prior to that particular act. So 105, 106 HBCUs. So let's just say 100 just to look at even numbers for percentages. So if there are 25 HBCUs as a part of ROTC program, it's
a quarter. That's
a quarter. And really less than a quarter, when you look at the total number. Yeah. So what are those other HBCUs? They include Tuskegee University, Fort Valley Wayne State University, Hampton University, Southern University, and A&M College, my alma mater, St. Augustine University, Prairie View University, University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, Norfolk State University, and about 10 others. 15 others. So with that, the total amount of HBCUs offering ROTC programs, it fluctuates, when Navy and Air Force ROTC programs are factored into the equation. But still, HBCUs have a distinct early connection to ROTC programs, as some were originally founded on what's called land-grant institutions. What are those? So the Morrill Land Grant Colleges Act of 1862 incorporated what's called elements of engineering, agriculture, military tactics into what's called land grant institution curriculum. So they actually paved the way for the creation of official ROTC programs. So therefore, according to Diverse Education, ROTC programs at HBCUs have served that dual purpose. Again, pipeline for minority students to diversify the military, but also to provide education. Let's take a look at others like West Virginia State, those institutions. They've helped to provide that program and that opportunity for individuals in states like West Virginia. So you have states where there's not a lot of economic activity, not a lot of opportunities, even where a lot of our HBCUs are located in communities where there's not a lot of economic activity. ROTC programs provide, once again, that opportunity to not only serve in the military as an officer at a higher rank, higher pay, but also, hey, once you get your college degree, while you're at it, education, employment, exposure, experience, leadership, that's what ROTC programs do for the African American community. And not just African Americans, but all programs. But again, we're talking about an added impact when we take a look at students that come from areas where there's not a lot of economic activity, not a lot of family experience of success. And you do have some that do have that lineage. I mean, you have families who are, we're talking third, fourth generation college educated, same HBCU, same university. I mean, we're headed in that direction as well, my family and others. So you do have that experience, but a lot of our students are still first generation college. And Marvin, this provides them an opportunity.
Yes, it does.
For what I call, and I like this term, upward mobility. A hand up, not a hand out.
And just like with many college students, it also provides lifelong friendships.
Absolutely. When you talk about lifelong friendships, I mean, think about that. It's it's friendships that even to this day, I've got friends I went to college with. We got a text string. You're talking over a quarter of a century ago. Really more than that. But, you're talking 30 years ago.
Wow.
And we're still texting each other. And still tripping out on stuff that happened 30, 25 years ago.
Lifelong friendships.
Lifelong friendship. It gives you that opportunity. So let's take a look at the White House is doing. Now, this was back in 2020 under the Trump administration. The White House initiative on historically black college universities wanted to, according to U.S. News, they wanted HBCUs to expand what's called Army Reserve Officer Training Corps, which is the full name for ROTC, right? ROTC program, which are Reserve Officer Training Corps programs. On campuses, and modernize their degree offerings to ensure that students are graduating with the skills necessary in order to achieve that. As a matter of fact, this vision was outlined at a forum at the Conservative Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C. in 2020, pitched to the Trump administration at that time as a way to increase the competitiveness of HBCUs, along with other strategies like including new majors in science, technology, engineering, and math, also known as STEM, and align with military and local workforce needs. Now, of course, during this time period, you had the executive director of the White House initiative, Jonathan Holyfield, at that time, said that there's no greater talent development engine in the world than the U.S. military itself. Now, when we take a look at what's happening now, of course, we have a new administration in with President Biden, but still, that statement holds true. That push is still active to increase ROTC programs and modernize those that currently exist, provide more funding so that our students can be more competitive and they can have that opportunity that's been provided to so many, across the board. Where some institutions, colleges sunset their ROTC programs during anti-war protests in the 60s, like some of the Ivy League schools and others, ROTC programs have, the Department of Defense, according to U.S. News, they sought to change that in recent years by reestablishing programs at campuses that once operated one and opening new programs at other institutions. So as it stands, ROTC programs exist at 1,700 colleges and universities. Now, keep in mind, there are over 4,000 colleges and universities in the country. But right now, over 1,700 colleges and universities across the country have them, yet only 25 of the countries, and they listed as 102 HBCUs, have ROTC programs on that. So, Marvin, we can do better. We want to do better. We can do better. We are going to do better because of the value that we have, that the military adds to us. You know, I just come away with just one word after doing this show, after researching it and so forth, and that's simply blessed. We're blessed to live in the country that we live in. We're blessed to be supported, and because of the greatest country we live in large part is because of the greatest military in the world. And in large part, that's because we have some of the greatest and the best and brightest of our community that volunteer to serve in it. So once again, phenomenal conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. But join us every Sunday at 1 p.m. here at Hot 91 The Soul of VA as we broadcast on the campus of the Norfolk State University, where we bring movers, shakers, and policymakers to you to discuss issues important to the community. Those who have served in the military, those who are serving, those who that support them, their families, civilian personnel, we salute you. God bless you in your endeavors. Godspeed to all that you do. Be safe, and remember, put God first, and you can do your very best. We'll see you next Sunday.